Hello, fifth grade, and welcome to lesson 5-3. In this lesson, we're going to focus on using models and properties to divide with two-digit divisors. So that means we have a number that we're going to divide by a two-digit number. Let's go ahead and watch our short video lesson, and then we're going to jump into our notes and our guided practice together.
How can you use area models and properties to find quotients? Emily has a rectangular garden with an area of 360 square feet. The length of her garden measures 20 feet. How many feet wide is her garden? You can have W stand for the unknown side. Use place value and the distributive property to find the unknown side length. You can think of this as 20 times W equals 360, or 360 divided by 20 equals W. 20 times 10 equals 200, and 20 times 20 equals 400. So W is between 10 and 20. That is, W equals 10 plus an unknown number.
Okay, so here let's pause and take a look at what they did. Now, they know that the total area was 360. So they figured that 20 times 10 is 200, but 20 times 20 is 400. So it's got to be more than 10 and less than 20, this unknown side. So we know at least part of it is 10. 20 times 10 is 200. So this is just one of our area models. So now when we take the 200 away from the 360, that was the total area, we have a remainder of 160. So now we have to think 20 times what number equals 160? Or you can drop the zeros to use your basic facts. 20 times what number equals 16? Or 16 divided by 2 equals what number? So basically what they did was they distributed the width into 10 and something else. So we're going to figure out what that something else is by figuring out the rest of the math. So they did the 20 times 10 to get the 200. And now the unknown side, we did the 360, which was the total area, minus the 200 that we know to equal 160. So we have to figure out 20 times our unknown number is going to equal 160.
What number multiplied by 20 equals 160?
Select your answer.
So now if you're not sure, you can go through each one of these options to figure it out. So 20 times 6. So think what's 2 times 6? 2 times 6 is 12. So 20 times 6 would be 120. That's less than our number here. 20 times 10 would be 200. That's greater than our number here. So we know it's going to be more than 6 and less than 10. So it can't be the 12. 20 times 8, well, I know 2 times 8 is 16. So 20 times 8 would be 160.
20 times 8 equals 160. So W equals 10 plus 8 equals 18.
So whenever you're doing a problem like this, after you figured it out, you want to stack and multiply to check your answer. Or what you can do in this case is you could do 360 divided by 18 and see if that gives you 20. Or you could do 360 divided by 20 and see if that gives you 18. So you always want to check your work either by doing the inverse operation or by substituting the numbers to see if your answers still give you those same original numbers.
Multiply to check. 20 times 18 equals 360. So 360 divided by 20 equals 18. The garden is 18 feet wide.
All right, so let's take a look at their work here. So they did 20 by 18. So they did the 20 times the 10 plus the 8. So remember how we knew that what the 10 was and we figured out what the 8 was. So that's just 18 distributed here into 10 plus 8. So 20 times 10 plus 8 is the same thing as saying 20 times 10, which gave you the 200, and 20 times 8, which gave you the 160. And when you put those together, you get 360. So then they did, again, the inverse. 360 divided by 20 did give them 18, so they were able to check their work. All right, let's go ahead and hop into our notes for this lesson. Now, our notes here, our title is Using Models and Properties to Divide with Two-Digit Divisors. So how can you use an area model and properties to find your quotient? So let's take a look at our first example. A parking lot has 270 parking spaces. Each row has 18 parking spaces. How many rows are in the parking lot? So here you can see I annotated my question, I boxed or circled my numbers, I underlined important information and what I'm being asked. So what I know there's 270 total spaces. I know 18 spaces are in each one of the rows. So I have to figure out how many rows there are. So to solve that, I have 270, I'm using my area model, 270 is my total area, is equal to 18 times, I put R, which is the number of rows. So 18 times R is going to equal 270. Now here I could use long division. I could break it up the way they did before. I could do 18 times 10 gave me 180, and then have 10 and an unknown number on the side. Or I could use long division. So I did 270 divided by 18. So there's no groups of 18 in 2. There's only one group of 18 in 27, right? So I'm going to use 27. So I put 1 above the 7. I put 1 above, or I put my partial quotient above the last digit that I used. So there's one group of 18 and 27. So I did 27 minus one group of 18, left me with a remainder of 9. So then I dropped my next digit, which was a 0. Now I have 90. So how many groups of 18 are in 90? Well, we know 10 groups of 18 is 180. So 5 groups of 18 will give me 90, which is half of 180. So I put the 5 up here, 18 times 5 equals 90. I subtracted the 90 and I had no remainders left over. So I figured out here that 270 divided by 18 equals 15. So my R, my number of rows, is 15. There are 15 rows with 18 spaces on each row. Now I could also plug this back in and multiply, do 15 times 18 to equal 270. That's a way that I can check my work. Let's take a look at our next example. It says a rectangular doormat is 21 inches long and has an area of 714 square inches. Find its width. Will the doormat fit in an entryway that is 36 inches wide? Okay, so let's take this apart. Now I know that the length is 21 inches. Okay, and I know the area is 714 inches. And the entryway that I'm thinking to put it in is 36 inches wide. So this is going to be a multi-step problem. Now, I'm going to create an equation to solve, because first I need to figure out what the width is before I can decide if it's going to fit in that entryway. So I know that 21 times the width needs to equal 714 square inches. And I put W as my variable here, W for the width. So what I can do is I can use long division here. So I can do 714 divided by 21 to figure out what the width is. So there's no groups of 21 in 7, but in 71, there's 3 groups of 21. So 21 times 3 is 63. So I subtracted 63 from the 71. I was left with 8, and I dropped my next digit, which was a 4. Then I had to figure out how many groups of 21 are in 84. I know 21 times 4 is 84, so I subtracted that off, and I had no remainders. So 34, my quotient, is the width. So I figured out the width, but the question that I was being asked in the main problem was, will it fit in an entryway that's 36 inches wide? Now, if the width is 34 inches, right, and I can do 34 times 21 to check my math, 34 times 21 did equal 714. So since the 36-inch entryway is larger than the 34 inches of the width of the doormat, it will fit. So to solve, we use the inverse operation. We use division to find the missing width of the doormat, and then we determine that the doormat will fit inside that entryway. So when you're working on multi-step problems, just be careful to make sure you're answering all of the parts. All right, let's take a look at some more examples. Draw to find the quotient. So I have 752 divided by 47 equals A. So 752 is my area, 47 is one of my sides, and A is my other side. So I took my 752 and I divided it by 47. I used long division. There's only one group of 47 in 75. There's no groups in 7, so we use the 2 digits together. there's one group of 47 in 75, so I subtracted that off. I was left with 28. Then I dropped my 2, so now I have 282. I had to figure out how many groups of 47 are in 282, so I multiplied over and over again until I got as close to it as I could. And I found that 47 times 6 equals 282. So I was able to divide that evenly with no remainders. So 752 divided by 47 gave me 16. Now, to check my work, I did the 47 times the 16, found my two partial products, added them together, and I did get back to 752. So by doing the inverse operation, by doing the opposite, I was able to confirm that my answer was correct. I ended up with that area that I was looking for. So I know that A was equal to 16. All right, let's take a look at another example before our guided practice. We're going to find the quotient and draw an area model to solve 375 divided by 25. So I put 375 divided by 25 equals C. So I plugged it in, did my long division. There's only one group of, there's no groups of 25 and 3, so we use the two digits together, 37. There's one group of 25 and 37, so I put the 1 above the 7. Remember, you put it above the last digit that you're using. I subtracted it off and I got 12. Then I had to drop my next digit, which is my 5. And then I had to think how many groups of 25 are in 125. So I know that 25 times 4 is 100, and then 25 times 5 is 125. So I was able to multiply 25 times 5, subtract off my 125, and I had 0 remainder. So 375 divided by 25 equal to 15. Now, I did my inverse operation. Again, I multiplied those numbers to check to make sure that I would get back to that 375. 25 times 15, I found my two partial products here, added them together, and I did get a total of 375, so I knew that my answer was correct. All right, let's take a look at your guided practice for today. Number 1 says, write the missing numbers to find 54 divided by 11. So 154 divided by 11. So I know the area of this whole shape is 154. Now they broke it up. We know 11 is one of the sides and we don't know the other side. Well, we know 11 times 10 is 110. So that makes this part. So now I have to find what remains. 154 minus 110 leaves me with 44. So 11 times 4 gave me 44. And I was able to put the 110 and the 44 to make 154. So first I did the 11 times 10 plus the 11 times 4. Then I used my properties to group these together. So 11 times the sum of 10 plus 4, which is 11 times 14. And that gave me 154. So 154 divided by 11 gave me 14. I did long division to double check my work. There's one group of 11 and 15, so I put the 1 above that last digit. Subtract off my 11, I was left with a remainder of 4. Then I dropped my next 4, so now I was working with the number 44. I know 11 times 4 gives me 44, so I did 11 multiplied by 4, subtracted that off, and I had 0 remainder. So here I was able to check my work to make sure that I did it correctly. For number 2, it says use the diagram to find 156 divided by 12. So what they gave you here was 120 and 36 as your partial products. So you knew one side was 12, and then you had to figure out the other two sides. So to get to 120, you know you have 12 times 10, so that was your missing number up here. And to get to 36, you know you have to multiply 12 times 3 to give you 36, right? 12, 24, 36, that's 3 groups. So you're able to fill in your missing numbers. Now the 12 times 10 gave us the 120. 156, which was our total, minus the 120 gave us that 36 that was here. Then we did the 36 divided by 12, or 12 times what number gave us 36, and we found out that that number is 3. So now we know 12 times 3 is 36. 120 plus 36, those are our two partial products, gave us 156. So that told us that 156 divided by 12 will equal 13. So you can stack and multiply these to do the inverse operation and check your work. Or you can see over here how we split it into the partial products, 12 times 10, and then 12 times 3, and then put those together. For number 3, we have 682 divided by 22 equals y. So 682 we know is our area. 22 is one of our sides, and y is our missing number. So I'm going to take my 682 and divide it by 22. So there's no groups of 22 and 6, but there's 3 groups of 22 and 68, right? 22, 44, 66. So 22 times 3 gave me 66. I subtracted the 66 from the 68, and I was left with 2. Then I dropped my next digit, and I had 22. Well, I know there's one group of 22 in 22, so I subtracted that off, and I was left with a remainder of 0. 682 divided by 22 gave me a product of, gave me a quotient of 31. So I decided that y was equal to 31, but I wanted to go back and check my work, so I did the inverse operation. So I took the 22 and I multiplied it by 31. I found my two partial products, added them together, and I found that I got back to 682, so I know that I did my work correctly. For number 4, I had 143 divided by 11 equals A. So I knew that my area was 143. One of my sides was 11, and my other side was A. That was my missing number. So again, I stacked, or I used my long division. I did 143, divided it by 11. There's no groups of 11 in 1, but there's one group of 11 in 14. So I put my 1 over that last digit that I used, the 14. Subtracted the 11 from it, and I was left with 3. And then I was able to drop my next digit. So my 3 now became 33. I know that 11 times 3 equals 33, so I subtracted that off, and I was left with no remainders. So 11 times 13 equals 143, or I can say 143 divided by 11 equals 13. I stacked and multiplied my two parts to find my product. So 13 times 11, I found my two partial products, added them together, and I did get back to my product, or my whole number of 143. So that way I knew that my work was correct. That takes us to the end of this lesson. If you have questions, please let me know. Otherwise, have an amazing day. Take care. Bye-bye.